Yes, guys, welcome to the Game Week 18 Deadline live stream. And first and foremost, Merry Christmas and Happy Boxing Day to everybody out there. I hope everyone has had an amazing time. Whatever you are doing, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, I hope you've had a wonderful time. Hopefully off work, but I appreciate there are some people out there who, of course, work. So I'm not going to talk about it too long because I might be rubbing it in some people's faces. But I hope everybody has had a wonderful time. The problem is, while some of us are hungover, while some of us are absolutely stuffed to the brim with food, we got to start thinking about FPL. There's no rest for the wicked, unfortunately, and we have to get our minds back on track in this haze of food and alcohol. We got to get ourselves into a position where we can at least make some sensible decisions with our teams. And this is a bit of a chaotic deadline, I'm going to be honest with you, because there is so much going on this week with price changes through the roof. I'm waking up at Christmas Eve in a sweat thinking that Ekitike is going up in price. I don't know what world we're in right now. We've, of course, got the deadline for our FPL chips being the Game Week 19 deadline. We've got to make sure we have that in the back of our minds. And, of course, we have got a hectic schedule with fixtures this weekend. We have midweek fixtures in Game Week 19 and then the following weekend. So if a player gets injured, for example, take a Bruno Fernandes, even 2 weeks out of the game, which usually might be just 2 games, that could be anything from 2 to 4 games in FPL terms. So we got a lot to talk about. I've dropped a few videos over this period. So hopefully, if I've missed anything, go and check out those previous videos. But the most important thing right now is, one, chatting to you guys, going through your questions, seeing exactly what you want to do. And of course, letting me know in the chat, what did you get for Christmas? Any weird presents out there? Secondly, we got to talk about my team because I have not decided what to do. So I might be stressed on this stream, but that might add for entertainment more than anything. So hopefully I can bring at least some tears on this stream. It might be for the benefit of you guys rather than myself. Then, of course, we're going to go through just the general hot topics, a bit of an overview on all of the things that people are talking about right now. And I imagine that is going to relate to a lot of you guys out there. So if you haven't already, please do consider dropping a like on the stream. And if you haven't already, do subscribe to the channel. I appreciate we're halfway through the season, but it's always massively appreciated if you can do so. So let's take a look who's in the chat right now. I can see El Chivers in the chat. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Brian, Immortal Technique, Autumn S, Europe, Zeus, Luke, Steamboat, Wild Huss, Mohammed Amar, and Kefers Y. I think you say it like that. Hope you guys are all doing really well. Please do get your questions in the chat. I'll be sure to get to them, as I said, and cover off everything we need to know. So, importantly, I just want to get a poll in the chat first and foremost, because I'm really intrigued by captaincy. And we're going to talk about captaincy in a minute. But before I kind of give you my opinion on captaincy right now, I do want to just put a poll just to see where everybody's first thoughts are in terms of what they are doing. Where is that captaincy going to? So let me get it on there right now and we can see exactly what people are doing. So who is your Game Week 18 captain? I don't want to deep dive into it right now. I'm really curious just to see what everybody's first thoughts are. So of course, Haaland and Ekitike are the top 2. I personally am going to put Saka as the third option. And I'll put other on there. And if it is other, if you could just put a comment with something like captain dash person, that will just let me know who that person is, as well as voting other on the chat. So let me know. I doubt there's going to be many people outside of the 3 that I've mentioned, but it'd be interesting to know regardless. So let's take a look at some of the stuff in the chat already. I can see we've got... Oh, I can't see the question here, the first one, because the poll is taken up. I've had an absolute nightmare here. So if anyone can let me know what the first question is, maybe I can pin it and then read it myself. Here we go. El Chivers is asking, Semenyo and Wilson. Now, just a quick update. Semenyo, as we know, the transfers are through the roof right now in terms of the speculation. I think he will be a Man City player by mid-January. Now, I think he's going to be loyal to Bournemouth, but that head's been turned, as we know. And away from home, Bit of a different beast to playing at home in front of your own fans. I do just think Semenyo is a player that is going to be sold ASAP in our teams. You can keep him for this week, but I do think if you want to go somewhere, a midfielder that is a bit more of a standout option long term, I'm fine selling Semenyo. And in terms of Harry Wilson, he is having a late fitness test, just a heads up. So that one is really going to be touch and go. And to be honest with you, the Fulham fixtures coming up are not fantastic. So 1 keep for 18 to Cunha and Lafay 19, 2 to Cunha and Lafay 18, 3 to Wirtz and Lafay on 18 and Cunha at 19. Okay, so really I would prioritise Cunha over Wirtz even in this particular game week, because if you bring in Wirtz, you are basically penciling a fixture for game week 19, and I don't mind that at all. But could I see Cunha scoring against a Newcastle team that still have Burnout and Livramento? Yeah, I think that's a possibility. And I get the argument where people are saying to me, yeah, but Nacho, I want to wait for one more week, see what Man United are doing, and then reassess. But honestly, is anything that you see against Newcastle not going to then change your mind and think to yourself, actually, I don't want Cunha with Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley, or whatever the run is? Whatever happens this weekend, people are still going to buy Cunha. So I would make Cunha more of a priority. Therefore, I probably would be going for maybe the Cunha and Lafay move, if that is going to enable other moves in your team, because you can just do Semenyo to Cunha. So let me know a bit more information on that one, my friend. Let me just unpin that message a minute. I just need to make sure I can see that one. Merry Christmas, fan. Hope you're doing well, Brian. Would you start Rodon or Anderson this game week? I think I would lean towards Anderson myself. However, I think both concede. So it comes down to defensive contributions, and I think Anderson will get them. And I think both will. And I think Leeds away from home are just not fantastic, really. But I think both concede, unfortunately, in that scenario. Merry Christmas, Luke. Hope you're doing well. Steamboat's asking, hey, Nacho. Hope you had a good Christmas. Very good, my friend. And still Boxing Day to come this evening with what can only be described as a incredible spread later on. Bruno and Thiago to Cunha and Ekitike, a good move. I would get that done in a heartbeat. I wish I could afford that move. That is a move for me, which Bruno has to be sold. And Thiago, we're going to touch on him later. Yes, he could do well. 100% he could do well. But do I think Ekitike is just miles better than Thiago? Yes. Steamboat, I would make those moves now, and then I'll go crack on and enjoy the rest of my Boxing Day. I wouldn't even stress about it, mate. Could Thiago score a hat-trick? We could, but we got to go off what we know right now. For me, that is a no-brainer move, mate. Wild Hus said, hey, mate, hope you had a good Christmas. I'm currently on a free hit. Any tips? Any must-haves? Okay, so I don't have a free hit built, but I'll make one on stream for you because I think we can get pretty close. Now, what I think would be handy, actually, let me just try and get it up on screens for you a minute, wherever it may be. Here we go. So this is a shout out to Solo Analytics, shout out to Rob TFPL over on Twitter and Blue Sky and all those places. This is what you want to see in terms of if you're building a free hit. This is the sort of graphic here. It's the projected goals and the clean sheet odds. So if you didn't know already, Liverpool against Wolves is a good game. 2.65 projected goals and a 45% chance of a clean sheet. So first and foremost, if I was building a free hit, I would have Van Dijk in defence, because I also think it offers something in the final third for attack and returns from corners. I will say Frimpong isn't a bad differential as well. A chance he could play right wing. I don't hate Frimpong. Then it would be Ekitike 100%. Then it comes down to the money available in your team. I don't mind maybe going for a McAllister or a Wirtz. Then in terms of Arsenal, I definitely would have at least one defender, probably Ewan Timber. Bukayo Saka or Rice, I think it would have to be Rice because of money. Then you got to assess the Arsenal defence, whether you want to double up. I think Everton is a really easy way for you to have a cheap midfielder in the likes of Keane. And I think Grealish could be a differential midfielder. Do I love Grealish though? Not really. I'm going to be honest. Then in terms of the rest of your team, I do think really Haaland's going to be in there and Foden probably will end up by default being in there just because of his ownership. Then outside of that, you're going to be sprinkling it with some other players in there, which we'll have a look when I build the free hit team. But just some first thoughts there for you. I saw we had a super chat here from Scott. Thank you so much, Scott. Always on the chat, as always. Super chat. So generous over Christmas. I really do appreciate it, man. I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas. Let's try and help you out on this one, buddy. So, Kelleher, Timber, Richards, Mukiele, so back three. Enzo, Semenyo, Saka, Foden, Wilson. Wilson, as we know, is going to have a late fitness test. And Ekitike and Haaland up top with Dubravka, Chalobah, Van der Ven and Krupi. One free transfer, 0.7 million in the bank. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, my friend, as well. So really, let's just go through it first and foremost. I think Kelleher, absolutely fine. Timber, perfectly fine. Richards, a doubt. So you would be having Chalobah come in his first sub. And when we look at the projected odds here, Spurs at a 23% chance of a clean sheet. Chelsea at a 31. I think that Chelsea-Villa game is a bit weird, I'm going to be honest. Like, I think Villa have got a way better chance of scoring more goals than that against Chelsea. But I agree with Chalobah over Van der Ven as your defensive coverage to cover. Semenyo, Saka, Foden, Wilson, Enzo, it's fine. And then Ekitike, Haaland. You got 0.7 million in the bank. Honestly, I can't really sit here right now and say to you, like, it's worth selling any of those players to go to like a Florian Wirtz, for example. And right now I'm struggling because when I look at the midfielders for this game week, I think really Cunha is a good pick against Newcastle, but you'd be having to sell Semenyo to do so, which I think is not going to benefit your team because Enzo, I don't think you can get to Cunha that way, and I wouldn't be taking a points hit. I think you've got a few problems in terms of if Richards is out injured, and then all of a sudden, if Wilson doesn't play, you're going Van der Ven deep into your bench. But I don't see any obvious moves for your team. I find it very difficult to pinpoint a midfielder to bring into your team to benefit in this game week in isolation. And I think you've got the Ekitike pick already, which is really ideal. So because of that, I think, because you've only got one transfer available, I probably would roll and reassess in game week 19. Because we've got to remember, game week 19 is midweek. And that could cause problems in itself. So even though I'd love to sit here right now and say, you know what, get rid of Wilson and bring this guy in or vice versa, I don't think there's enough upside. I can't really recommend a Liverpool midfielder to you. I'm struggling to pick. I'll say this. Enzo to Rice, if you can afford it, I don't hate. Because you've got Timber and you've got Saka. You don't have another Arsenal pick. That I could get behind, otherwise I would roll your transfer. And that would only be to kind of cover yourself off in case certain players don't play. Right, try and get through some more stuff on here. I don't want to go past everything right now. Hi mate, this week's been complex, still not made moves. Would you have Mount for next 3 to 4 so I can afford Ekitike and Gordon? Well, that is a difficult one because Mason Mount is not one of those players that I trust. However, if we take a look at the numbers right now for Mason Mount, so this is Mount on your screens. The minutes played, we know Amorim likes him, and he's not got Mbeumo, he's not got Bruno Fernandes, so I think that is really elevated Mason Mount as a pick in terms of guaranteed minutes. And when he plays, the numbers are okay. He doesn't really hit defensive contributions, so he's not one of those all-action midfielders. I do think he offers some value, especially at 5.9 million, but I think he's significantly worse than that of a Cunha, for example. So I really don't love the Mason Mount pick, but what you do have is guaranteed minutes over the next 4 game weeks. I'll be astonished if Mason Mount, for some reason, isn't part of Amorim's plans over the next few weeks. Is Wilson fit to play? That'll be a late fitness test. Bruno to Gordon as a differential. Yes, I don't mind Gordon as a pick, but I've spoken about this in previous videos. I don't think I've got them up on here. No, I don't. So I'm just rattling through some of the slides that I've got. So in terms of Gordon, this is my issue, okay? So his minutes, as you can see, he never plays 90 minutes. He started against Chelsea, 71. Sunderland, 58. 73 against Burnley. Really, really poor, of course, was injured before that period. Now, do I think he probably starts tonight? Yes, I do think, if I had to guess. The issue is, then, Tuesday, which is only 4 days later or so, we have got the Burnley game, which you really want him for. And if he's not playing that, then I ask the question, is he really worth it? I think he's always going to be an issue in your team. Do I think he has high upside? Yes, you can see that with some of the numbers, 1.3, 1.36, 0.9. Yes, he is on penalties though, which does elevate some of this. I like him, but I don't think you get a start in both Man United and Burnley. And if it's just the Man United game you get, then is that really the game that you want? Is that the game that you truly want? My captain choice is going to be Haaland, but we will talk about captaincy later, because if I had Ekitike, that definitely would be posing the question of where to go, because there really is a debate between Haaland and Ekitike this week. Charlie saying my present is an Ekitike hat-trick for tomorrow. As somebody who currently does have an Ekitike, I really hope you don't get that present, Charlie. I really, really am sorry, but that would hurt me a lot. First bench, Minter or Rodon. I honestly would just go Rodon. I think Rodon's got a much higher chance of picking up 2 appearance points and possibly a couple of defensive contribution points. I think Minter is literally just going to get 2 points and come off after 70 minutes. Hi, already I've made 2 transfers. Thiago to Ekitike and Bruno Fernandes to Gordon. Had no money for Cunha. What do you think about Wilson and Richard? Will they play? By the sounds of it, if I had to guess, I think Wilson probably does play. But in terms of Richards, because it was cut and they've had to stitch it, I wouldn't be surprised if they bench him or he's not included and they get him available for the following game week. I have concerns about Richards' game time. I've been burned every time I captain Haaland. Yes, I think a lot of people can relate to that one for sure. Which moves are you going to bring in? Ekitike. I'll cover that off in a minute, because as you can see, I don't have Ekitike, and every day that's passed, I just want to enjoy my evenings. I've had to watch Ekitike's price soar, absolutely fly, and I still don't own him. And now it begs the question, is he really worth it? Is he worth me bringing into my team? And we'll cover that off, because do I think he's a good pick? Absolutely. Do I think he is going to take a lot of transfers for me to get in? Absolutely. So we do need to cover that off in a bit. Captain Wirtz, you're a maniac. Will you start in Capier and Wilson? I have only 1 bench starter standby, which is Minter, and no free transfers. Okay, so if that is the scenario there, I think you've got to roll the dice and hope for the best. In Capier, it sounds like there's a chance he could be available, but I really don't know exactly. And I've spoken about Wilson. We know it's a late fitness test, and that really is it. Guehi or Bruno Guimaraes, bench 1. I would have to bench in that scenario Guehi, because Bruno Guimaraes, with their fixture against Man United, actually, I think I would go Guehi. I'm just looking right now, and I need to remind myself, I'm still in a little bit of a food coma, it seems, that it is Spurs at home. Now, Palace were poor, it's worth noting, but do I think Palace will beat Spurs? Probably. I would lean towards Guehi myself. But that is a close one, because we don't really know what this Man United side are going to look like without all their players. And again, guys, you drop a like on the stream. That is always massively appreciated. Thoughts on Wirtz for the next 2 game weeks? Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him, because unfortunately, he's a player that could end up in my team, and I really, really don't back it. But there is a real good chance he could end up in my team. So let's just establish a few things right now. There's absolutely nothing right now from Wirtz to justify buying him in FPL. Like, I get it. I spoke to a few Liverpool fans. His performances are starting to improve. It looks like he is being one of the best players on the pitch, but it isn't necessarily translating to FPL points from a significant perspective. Like, I get it, he's had a couple of assists, but is he doing enough for me to sit here right now and go at 8.1 million? This is the guy. It really isn't right now. So we are all taking a punt on Wirtz, and that simply is it. And anybody that really is berating the Wirtz pick, I think we just need to make sure that the mindset is the same as those that are looking to buy. We have to understand that nobody thinks Wirtz is a phenomenal FPL pick. It's simply Wolves are one of the worst teams in the league, and Leeds away from home are very, very poor. So it's a case of owning another piece of the Liverpool attack, an attack that really hasn't been functioning fantastically, but still manages to score goals. So when we look at Wirtz's numbers right now, 0.37 expected goal involvement per 90 in the last 6 game weeks. It's fine. It's nothing spectacular. We know he's not on penalties. So really that is all open play stuff that he is doing. The problem is here, only 1.82 shots per 90. Some people may view that as okay. Just for comparison, Cunha over the last 6 game weeks is about 6.3 shots per 90. So really, the numbers are very, very, very poor in comparison. Now, this is where narrative is massive, because who has Cunha played over the last few weeks? Wolves. Cunha has played Wolves over the last few weeks. So just for context, Cunha played against Wolves and got a 1.16 expected goal involvement, and he had like 7 or 8 shots in that game. What we need to understand is that everybody's numbers get inflated when they play against Wolves, and even so against Leeds. Let me have a look if Man United have played Leeds so far this season. They have not, so I can't use that as a reference point. But what I'm trying to say is this. Whenever teams play Wolves, and even Leeds away from home at times or at home, they put up really good numbers. Now, we're in a position right now where Wirtz has his opportunity to have his game against Wolves. And am I expecting the average of 1.8 shots per 90 to be elevated in this Wolves game? Yes, I am. I'm expecting Wirtz to probably have 2 or 3 shots in this game because it's against the worst team in the league. What I like about Wirtz is that if you can easily go there, then you can pivot away from him in game week 20. I think you do 2 game weeks of him. You say, thank you for the experience, Wirtz. Thank you for the 0 points. I'm gone. And you dip off to someone like a Rodgers. If we have a look at the fixtures here, look at Liverpool, Wolves, then they have got Leeds, Fulham, Arsenal, Burnley, Bournemouth. If we look at Aston Villa's fixtures down here, if you really wanted to, in game week 20, you could do Wirtz to Rodgers and do the Forest, Palace, Everton combination. So what I like about Wirtz is he is very short term. Yes, you could keep him up to game week 22, but you got to ride him through Fulham and Arsenal prior to that. I just don't think anybody really is going to be patient enough to do so. I think there will be real temptation in game week 20 to go to someone like a Rodgers. And I actually don't mind that strategy at all. Sometimes it isn't a case of, is Ekitike essential? Yes, I have to buy him at all costs, because sacrifices might need to be made that actually overall might make your team worse. And I'll use my team as an example in a minute. So all in all, what do I think about Wirtz? Nothing in me right now says he's a good pick. The only reason I would recommend buying him, and again, I want to put it out there, there's a chance I might buy him, is because of the fixtures, and that is it. He's playing closer to Ekitike in a bit more of a 10 role over the last couple of weeks. Like we said, I haven't watched them each and every week, but people who I trust are saying that he's playing well. Could he just score a goal against Wolves? He could. And what's fantastic about Florian Wirtz is that his baseline bonus is ridiculous. So all it takes for him is to get an assist, and he's most likely picking up bonus points, let alone a goal, and he could be right up there alongside Ekitike competing for top bonus. So, like I said, can he cover Ekitike? No chance. No chance. But if you can't get to Ekitike and you're scared not to have any ownership in this Liverpool attack, then I think Wirtz is fine. I really do. I trust this player to be top class eventually. And do I think he could do it against Wolves? I do. I think he could. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I'll be interested to know what you guys think about Florian Wirtz and all. But yeah, I think you can take a punt on him and it's not an embarrassing pick. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of the way I look at it right now. Trigger Talks FPL, thank you so much for the comment there, mate. It's just stated about Enquiries not seeing any training picks. 40 players were present. Thank you for that, mate, because I have missed that. In the midst of food and alcohol, I've not caught that information, so I really appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, so for me, that's not ideal. Arteta has a past of, you know, not including players in training photos and then suddenly they pop off, but it's not ideal situation with that, really, is it? Play Anderson or Alderete. I personally would lean towards Alderete with that home game. And obviously we know he's okay for defensive contributions as well. Sammy, Merry Christmas on bench boost. Need a budget mid. 5.5 million in the bank. Let's help Sammy out here right now. So again, I do apologise. I'm not an encyclopedia of players. Once I was, I swear. There was one time where you could tell me any player and I'd bang out the price in real time. I've lost my way a little bit. Probably a little bit of age. I've lost a bit of memory capacity, maybe they call it. So let's just fire through some of the players here at 5.5 million. And right now, you're on a bench boost. But 5.5 million is one of those tricky spots where you don't want to spend too much where it takes up too much of your budget that you're stuck with this player long term. So really, when I look at it, I think Xhaka is like an obvious pick, but I also think Lafie is getting a lot of love right now. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't have the ins and outs of Lafie right now, but what I'm worried about is he's on 4 yellow cards. So just be cautious of that if you are looking to invest in Lafie, that he might possibly not be available after a certain time. So just be cautious of that. I think Xhaka is a really steady pick in your teams. Now look, the numbers aren't good. And really, he doesn't hit defensive contributions all the time either. But Xhaka is a steady pick. But remember, 4 yellow cards as well. Outside of that, the other place to consider is Reinders. But can I sit here right now and guarantee you minutes for Reinders? I can't. And I think that is why we have to avoid Reinders. So when we come down through the rest of the players, really, and who we can acknowledge outside of Xhaka or Lafie, I'm struggling to pinpoint a player that I could confidently say to you is a good option. Therefore, if you're bench boosting this week, I would lean towards the Sunderland picks. And I probably would go for Lafie of Sunderland. Slightly cheaper. And I think you could stash him away then on your bench for the foreseeable if you need to do so. Afternoon, everyone. How is everyone? Ollie, hope you're doing well, my friend. Wirtz will outscore Cunha this week, says Cam. Newcastle will be too tough for this weekend. And they will do is create huge XG with so many big chances. You heard it here first. Magic Waddle, hope you're doing well, mate. Should I go Bruno to Wirtz or Cunha? Should I go Bruno to Wirtz or Cunha? Okay, so I had this exact decision when I brought in Cunha myself. And the reason why I went there is because whatever happens in Game Week 18, whether Cunha has a stinker or Man United have a stinker, I got to remind myself that the fixtures afterwards are Wolves, Leeds and Burnley. And the numbers that Cunha have put up in the last few weeks are 1.01, 1.02, 1.16. Good on bonus points, possibly on penalties. For me, Cunha was the priority over a Florian Wirtz. Sorry, I was summing my eye there. What about Richards to Keane with 2 transfers left? Yes, so this is a really, really difficult one right now with Richards. And I apologise, I can see, you can't fully see like what I'm looking at right now. So let me just try and make this a bit more of an immersive experience. So give me 2 secs. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see Richards now? Yes. Can you see the fixtures? Yeah, you can see the fixtures kind of. There we go. You don't need to see the FDR because we know the FDR is a little bit skewed. So in terms of Chris Richards, it's a bit of a dilemma because this game week at home against Spurs, I'm going to say I think there's a good chance he doesn't play. Like, I think we have to have the opinion that there is a really solid chance he doesn't play. Then afterwards, he's got Fulham at home, good. But then afterwards, Newcastle, Villa, Sunderland, Chelsea. Not a great run of fixtures. We know Palace are a bit struggling. No Munoz, no Ismail Assar. And it feels like there is just another injury that probably is going to happen eventually. What he is great for, of course, is defensive contributions. He hits them regularly. 16, 11, 11, 12 down here. So he is a really good pick. But yes, do I think Keane is a better pick? Absolutely. Because when we look at the fixtures coming up for Everton, firstly, Keane does just as much on defensive contributions. Look, 13, 14, 11, 11, 18. Really good for DEFCON. And the fixtures are better. Burnley, Forest, Brentford, Wolves, Villa, Leeds. For me, I think Richards to Keane is a move that I'd almost make this week, just being like, whatever happens in game week 19 happens with Richards at home against Fulham, but I'm in on Keane for this Burnley game, and that's the real reason why I've decided to bring him in. And I mean that as in hypothetically speaking, rather than me buying him right now. By the way, I can see people voting in the poll here. 57% are going Haaland, 39% are saying they're going Ekitike. So again, I think the Ekitike hype is going to be big. It's going to be very big. Right, so I think it's probably worth me going through a little bit of a probably a little bit of a cover in terms of my team, because I actually do need to try and get them sorted, don't I, really? I just thought about that. So I'm just making sure this is all sorted in a minute. Apologies. Cool. Okay. Let's answer a few more questions, and then I'm going to get through my team a minute and kind of show you where I'm at. So, is Wilson out? No, but he is having a late fitness test. Ollie say, Nacho, I've got a captain headache that I need help with. Ollie, drop your question in the chat, buddy. I'll try and get to that one. Should I go Voltemade or Thiago? Clinton, what do you mean in terms of should I go Voltemade or Clinton? Let me know on that one, my friend. Hey, Nacho, back to the Chelsea game. Who to start, Sanchez or Dubravka? I would probably play Dubravka this week. I still think Aston Villa score against Chelsea, even though I am a Chelsea fan. I probably would lean towards Dubravka. But then again, Burnley are crap. Chelsea are at home. Do I think Sanchez also gets saves? Yes. Oh, actually, maybe leaning towards Sanchez, actually. I probably would go for Sanchez and back Chelsea to put in a big performance. Mahmood, I went Bowen set 90-minute man. Gordon, you don't know what you're going to get, especially with these close fixtures. Yes, I agree. I would have Bowen over Gordon long term. Free hit team, I kind of covered that off in a bit. I will try and build one on screen for you just so you got it as context. Gordon or Rice in this week. Look, it's a very difficult one because I think Gordon has the much higher ceiling, but I probably would say Rice is the steady pick for a longer term and a player that you probably won't sell, which is ideal. So I want to quickly show my team a minute to kind of talk through where I'm at, and I kind of need to talk through it out loud to decide what to do. And I'm going to end the poll here because I probably will need a little bit of help in the poll to see what exactly I should do. So just a bit of context where I'm at right now. I'm currently ranked, as you can see, 74k in the world. So it's been a really steady season so far. It's been nothing glamorous. It's just been ticking over nicely. And my team, as you can see, is on screen. So rare between the sticks. O'Reilly, Virgil van Dijk, Richards obviously carrying a knock right now, and then Anderson. We then got Cunha, Semenyo, Foden and Saka with a front two of Haaland and Thiago. As you can see, no Ekitike, which is not ideal. So we need to really plan out kind of like, firstly, is Ekitike so essential that I need to own him? So in order for me to go there, really, it has to be for Thiago. Just to give you some context, if I was to go from Mark Gui, I would need to free up 3.3 million. And from Semenyo, there's nobody at 4.3 that I can go for. And the only player I could take the money out of is going to be Saka, and I can't get to Declan Rice. So I ruled out the whole three up front concept. I could have done it earlier on in the week, but I didn't really know how to do it, so I didn't want to bother with it. So if we take a look at some other alternative options, okay, so if we were to sell Thiago to Ekitike, I need to free up 0.9 million. So who are the players in this team that enable things for me? So for example, let's just run through the players. Raya, absolutely, and we'll talk about him in a minute. So Raya is a cash cow in this team. What I mean by a cash cow is somebody that I'm willing to sell to enable a move that I deem beneficial for my team. However, selling David Raya then means I don't have any Arsenal coverage in my team. Now, do I think Raya is worth 5.7 million? Absolutely not. But I need to ask myself, are their fixtures going to equal clean sheets? Because this is the perfect example. Some people might be there like, you got to sell David Raya, Callum. You got to get rid of him. But we also need to remember that the ownership of the Arsenal defence is over 100% because people have Timber, people have Raya. So if I completely come off the Arsenal clean sheet, bring in a goalkeeper that doesn't keep a clean sheet, and Arsenal keep a clean sheet, yes, I may have been able to afford Ekitike, but I'm negatively getting hurt by an Arsenal clean sheet. So we have to remember these things. It's not just a case of downgrading David Raya and coming off Arsenal altogether and not also having the problems that come with that. But what I will say is, could I see Brighton nicking a goal? Probably not, actually. But could I see Villa? Yes. And then in game week 20, Bournemouth away is not incredible, but if Semenyo is a Man City player by then I back Arsenal. Game week 21 could be anything. Then we need to get back on Arsenal from game week 22 onwards. And remember, Virgil van Dijk's fixtures are mixed. Of course, we would have him over here, but game week 20 would be an opportunity for me to do Van Dijk to a Gabriel and go straight across there and then have my Arsenal coverage over that period. So David Raya is a cash cow for me to get Ekitike. No other midfield defender is. Taking it out of Virgil van Dijk just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me right now with a home game against Wolves. I can't really get behind that. In terms of the midfield, Saka absolutely is, but I just don't know if I really love the idea of selling Saka to go there. I really don't know if I can really go there. So for me, Saka is probably going to stick around, but I appreciate people are probably saying go get Declan Rice and just be done with it. Semenyo is an obvious cash cow, but the problem is it's only 6.7 million to replace him, and I don't love many of the 6.7 million options in this team. Minter can go, and it's 5.2, and a common move that some people have been talking about is doing something like a Lafy. So Minter to Lafy enables me to do Thiago to Ekitike. That's not a bad move at all, and it enables me that. I haven't ruled that out as a move. Foden sticking around and Cunha sticking around. So really, as you can see with my team, the options are this. Raya down to Kelleher. Saka down to Declan Rice. Semenyo down to like a Lafy, but that doesn't really benefit me this week. Or selling Minter and going down to Lafy and playing him at home against Leeds and then just having him as a long-term bench pick. So I'll be really interested to know in the comment section whether you think it's worthwhile. I'll quickly put a poll in. If I were to do the Ekitike move, which option would you go for? Would you do Raya to Kelleher? I could do Saka to Rice. Or I could do Minter to Lafy. This is basically to get, and if I've missed anything, guys, please do let me know in terms of a route of getting Ekitike. But I have to ask myself, how can I get Ekitike firstly? And if I think it is too much of a detriment to my team, then we rule out Ekitike. So the next thing for me is just to quickly see, okay, cool. How would my team look with these possible moves in here? So let's say I went for probably the move that is the most logical in terms of it doesn't massively impact my team. So let's say I went to Lafy, Minter down to Lafy, and I bench Richards because I'm concerned about his minutes. And I think Lafy is as good as, Richards this week. The team would look like this. And then, of course, I would make the third move and do Ekitike in here. And also, it's worth noting, I think Rodon is perfectly fine to play this week if you need to do so. So my team would look like this with the 3 transfers. You can see the summary in the top right. Thiago to Ekitike, Minter to Cunha, Bruno Fernandes to Lafy. That's how it was done. Bruno to Cunha was part of the move. So now we need to ask ourselves, what does it look like in game week 19? Well, in game week 19, the team would look like this. I've got Ekitike, which is important, and I've got Haaland. Lafy, not great, so I would be starting him instead of Richards and hoping that he is available for that particular fixture. And the rest of the team kind of picks itself. And if we come down to the fixtures for game week 19 in isolation, who do I not own? Well, I don't have Newcastle against Burnley, but again, I don't really know who I would own in that team. I already have Cunha in that Wolves fixture, so that's absolutely fine. And then, of course, Liverpool, I've got the best player in Ekitike for the home game against Leeds. But really, I think the team looks absolutely fine. The issue will be if Semenyo is now a Man City player, then Semenyo is off the cards and not really a great pick. But let's say there's a world where Bruno Fernandes suddenly is available in game week 19, then that would be quite an exciting prospect. But again, the team looks fine for game week 19 if I had to roll it out. And ideally then getting into game week 20, then really I would probably have to ask some questions about this team about what moves to make. So let me know in the chat, guys. I'll really benefit from it. Do you think it's worth bringing in Ekitike, downgrading Minter and going there? The one thing I will say is this. Selling Minter while he has been woeful, I do lose out on the opportunity of owning Minter in, as you can see in these fixtures. If you look at Brighton, I miss out of having the West Ham game, and I miss out of having him in game week 20 at home against Burnley, which is quite an exciting game, one in which, you know, like, it'd be great to own him over that period, to be honest with you. So that's also something that I think to myself, oh, maybe I should have him. So this is the issue right now. I wouldn't have Minter, but really, has Minter been doing anything in FPL for me to sit here right now and say, you know what, I'm not going to buy Ekitike because I want Minter in game week 20? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Looking at his numbers, 0.01, 0.57, 0.07, 0.31, and I'll basically be holding on to him just to play him in the Burnley game, and that simply is it. I don't really think that makes a lot of sense for my team. So that's currently where I'm at in terms of my Ekitike move. It would be Minter to Lafitte and basically just saying to myself, I'm just going to go down that route and I'm going to see how it works out the following weeks. And as I said, game week 19 looks plausible. I could easily play that this week. And something that I could do as well this week is, game week 19, is sell someone like an Anderson if I wanted to, and go to Keane and bring him in if I really wanted to bring in an Everton defender for their long-term fixtures and hope that he gets through their game week. And the team could look like this, which is absolutely fine. And then in game week 20, we got Keane for the Brentford game. The issue is my bench is very, very bad. And this is why this team starts to stretch itself just a little bit in my team, because I start to ask the question, is there actually issues in this team where the bench every week is going to be Rodon, Lafitte and Mark Gui? Can you see where my issue is with Ekitike here? This is my big issue. I've got a budget forward, a budget fifth midfielder, and a budget defender. So every single week I'm rolling out my team. It's stretched to the bare bones. Stretched to the bare bones every single week. So, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is doing something like this. Now, I know you guys are going to hate this, but please do just hear me out. So, what I could do is this. I've done the Cunha move already. We sell Semenyo to Wirtz, and we pray that Wirtz does something in this game, and the team gets rolled out like this for the game week. And if Richards doesn't play, Rodon comes in. But really, I think, based on Richards' fixtures coming up, I think there is a world where I sell Richards and bring in Keane. And my team would look like this for game week 18. Then in game week 19, again, the team looks fine. Minter probably comes in for Anderson for that away game. And I would happily roll this transfer here. Happily roll the transfer. And then in game week 20, we'd start to ask ourselves, okay, maybe it's time to start making some moves in this team. Maybe it's time to get rid of Florian Wirtz. So this is why there are problems in my team right now. Because Wirtz is a more sensible move. For example, this week I could do in game week 20, Wirtz to Rodgers, and the team would look like that from game week 20 onwards. And he enables me moves that maybe I cannot make in the future, whereas Ekitike really stretches my team to the absolute max. So based on that, I don't know what to do. If I was a guessing man right now, I think I'm going down more this route. This is a perfect example here of Ekitike obviously is a better pick, but is it better for my team? I don't know if it is. Looking at the way that my squad was and how stretched it's going to be over the next few weeks, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. I really don't know if it makes a lot of sense for my team to go that way. I think the only way I can make a solution of bringing in Ekitike is to get rid of Saka. I really think the only way I can do it is selling Saka. Going to Declan Rice and then doing this. This is the only team I think is plausible. Is that. I think that's the only plausible move with the summary there that you can see on your screens of doing Thiago to Ekitike, Bruno to Cunha, Saka to Rice. But I just don't know if I love it enough. And then in game week 19, the team would look like this. But instead of Saka, I would have Rice. Very difficult. I'll be interested to know in the chat, guys, what you think in terms of the moves. Raul or Semenyo to play this week, I think I would be leaning more towards, reminding myself of the Fulham fixture. Fulham away against Palace, I would play Semenyo of the two, definitely. Free hit draft. A lot of people are asking about a free hit draft. And again, guys, if you could drop a like on the stream, always massively appreciated. And if you can subscribe to the channel, it's also massively appreciated. We're trying to hit 23k before the end of the new year. I think we're like 30 off, maybe 40 off. So if anyone's watching this right now, you want to give me a late birthday gift, massively Christmas gift, that would be massively appreciated. That would be massively appreciated if you could subscribe to the channel. Costs nothing. Be the cheapest gift that you have given all year. I promise you I will give you lots of content. Lots of content. Hincapié, I would be a little bit worried. Ollie, drop your captain dilemma, mate, and I will try and cover that off for you, buddy. So, in terms of a free hit team, who are the players that are quite essential? Well, let's just get rid of these ones right now. I think I would pick Cunha. You know, I probably, let's just get some of the boys in. So, Ekitike is obviously an essential. I think Van Dijk you would have. We'll keep Rodon in as a cheap defender. I don't think any of these will come in. You could keep O'Reilly. If we look at the fixtures in isolation, we got to have a third Liverpool. Where that third Liverpool is, I don't know. Let's put in McAllister for budget. And the only reason McAllister would be in is because of the potential of penalties. What's the next best? Arsenal against Brighton. I think Declan Rice would have to be in there for a free hit. Not exciting, but I think he could easily get another double-digit return. And just for those that are wondering regarding Declan Rice, you know, he ain't a game breaker at all. Like, the numbers are steady. 11 points against Everton off a 0.22 expected goal involvement, but he hits DEFCON, which rack up the points for him. So I'd probably go along something like this. I think Keane could go in there, obviously. I think I'd be tempted to go Jared Bowen, you know, up top against Fulham and just kind of go for a front three a little bit different. The midfield four that you can see on your screens were maybe Lafie as the cheap enabler if you wanted it. I think Alderete is a good pick at home against Sunderland. All of a sudden, we've built a team for a free hit here with kind of little thought. And I think it'd be absolutely fine this week. You know, you could bench Lafie, Alderete, and that. You could probably get rid of O'Reilly here and really lean into the Arsenal defence. You could go for Timber here. Maybe go for something like that. That's close to a free hit team that I would go for, roughly. I've been stuck with Enzo for weeks, not sure what to do with him. I would sell Enzo. Now, look, can you play him this week? 100%. I think he plays in this fixture, but just be cautious. I do think Enzo has been cooked for a little while. I think he's been really fatigued. He's been playing roles that doesn't really suit him. Like, he's not like an athlete, and we're playing him in positions where we're expecting him to run into channels to receive balls. It doesn't really make sense with Enzo. Is Ekitike a must-have? No. I don't think he's a must-have, but just to give you some context on him compared to other players here, like the last 6 game weeks, 0.61 non-pen expected goal involvement. Compare that to Thiago's 0.17. Big difference there. Big difference. And rightly so, Ekitike is being loved by a lot of people. And I do think he will continue his form. I really do. I don't see how he won't deliver against Leeds or Wolves or both. So for that reason, I think he's fantastic. Yeah, I think he's a great pick. But like I said, now I need to decide with my team whether the funds need to be spread out in my team. And I will cover that off in a bit. I probably need to try and sort that sooner rather than later, I'm going to be honest with you, in my team. See what I'm actually going to do. So I think Ekitike is not essential. But if you can get him, I absolutely would. I really think it's worth getting him. I really do think it's worth trying to get him in. Yeah, Richards is a bit of a problem right now. Richards is a problem. Big problem. Just seeing right now if there's any sort of Man United news for those that are wondering, but I can't really see much right now. Can't really see too much. And like I said, it is a bit worrying, like, in a position where it's like not owning Ekitike. It's like, oh, God. Little bit worrying. Honestly, Haaland, Ekitike and Wirtz, if I'm feeling cheeky, obviously no to Wirtz. Wirtz just being owned in general is enough of a differential for that one, mate. And again, Ollie, it comes down to what kind of risk appetite you have. I think, for me, Ekitike and then Haaland as my captain probably would be the route to go. I just don't see any reason not to go Haaland. I think this is the problem right now with Haaland, is until he gives us a moment where we can be like, yes, he is now not worth captaining, then I think by default Haaland is still the captain until we see otherwise. Like, did anyone watch the Forest game and think they were fantastic against Fulham? Absolutely not. So for that reason, I think I probably would lean towards saying still Haaland as captain, and Ekitike just as a pick is fine. And I mean as a pick as just being in your team as opposed to anything else. Right, guys, I'm going to do a 5-minute Q&A blitz. So if you're watching this right now, please do put your questions in the chat. Then I'm going to have to just dedicate, and I do apologise because I have done it previously, just 2 to 3 minutes of me just finalising my team. And then we might have to wrap it up there. We've still got an hour and a half until the deadline, but I can't stream all the way until the deadline, unfortunately. But I will try and cover off as much as I can. So if you put your chat in question already, pre-Ekitike must-have by Champboy8159. If you put your question before Champboy8159, please put it again and I will try and answer it. But I'm going to try and cover off everything from below that now for the next 5 minutes. And then I'm going to cover off my own team and some other hot topics before we wrap it up. And again, if you are enjoying this, please consider dropping a like, a Christmas like, a Boxing Day like. And again, we're close to 23k. I would love to hit it on stream, but I think we're about 15 short. We would need a lot of generosity. And I also appreciate that a lot of you listening to this right now are probably subscribers already. So if you are already, thank you so much. But again, if you can, hit that subscribe button if you're not already. That would be awesome. And I hope you guys are a sick Christmas. So let's go through some of this. So do I think Hincapié will play? Says Billy Harton. Unfortunately, it looks like he hasn't been pictured in training photos. Now, does Arteta have history of playing players who don't appear in trainer photos. Yes, we only saw that a couple of weeks ago, but I would be concerned about Hincapié. I would definitely be concerned. I did Semenyo to Lafi and Thiago to Ekitike. Like those moves. From my perspective, that is moves that can absolutely be done. Can absolutely be done. If I just quickly check it myself. Semenyo to Lafi frees up 4.2 million. I can't do GUI up. And the problem is then the rest of my team looks quite poor for that week. But we'll have a look at that in a bit. Payment, Merry Christmas, mate. 1 free transfer left, 2.6 million in the bank. That's good. Play 3 of Vandenberg, Senesi, Mukiele, Anderson, Wilson. Or should I make a transfer of one of them? You've got to play 3 of them. You definitely play Mukiele at home. I think that's absolutely fine. I would play Vandenberg, another home game. And I would play Senesi, probably because of the defensive contributions. Yes, he has a tough game away against Brentford. Anderson would be the other consideration, not to go against one another. I think Wilson either starts or he gets 0 minutes. So for that reason, I would go Vandenberg, I would go Mukiele, and I would go Wilson. With probably maybe and Senesi first sub. Don't think you need to make a transfer there, mate. Max is saying -8 to remove Saka, Enzo, and Raul to get Ekitike, Rice, and Chiesa. I think Chiesa is a big risk. Or -4, remove Thiago and Enzo for Ekitike and Miley and bench him. Well, a -8 and Saka being part of that equation, I just can't really get behind, especially with the -4 to remove Thiago and Enzo. So I prefer the -4 100% if Miley is benched for you for the foreseeable and your squad looks fine beyond that. Oh, if I had Mount or Wilson, I probably would go for Mount and just pray that he does contribute in that final third. What do you do with Richards? I'm in a position where I possibly will sell him, and if I do so, it will be for Michael Keane. I think his minutes are still going to be fine in the future. I would be concerned with Richards starting this week, and then, yes, you get the midweek fixture, but after that, the fixtures are quite difficult. Aiden, I have extra transfers. Should I do Dewsbury Hall to Lafi and Krupi to Gui? Already have Ekitike. What's the reasons behind the move? I don't love that. I'll be interested to know why you make those moves. Would you do Richards to Keane with 1 free transfer left? Can cover Richards' game week with Alderete? Oh no, I'll just play Alderete 100%. I think Alderete is a great pick this week. Shall I sell Saka to Rodgers and Ekitike? Should I sell Saka to Rodgers and Ekitike? Who are you selling in the forward line to go Ekitike? Semenyo versus Wirtz this game week. I mean, I'm looking at possibly selling Semenyo to get to Wirtz. But Wirtz, you are just taking a massive punt, whereas Semenyo has credit in the bank because he's actually done it each and every week for teams. Hello, sir. Would you sell Jimenez and Thiago for Ekitike? Or wait for the weekend and sell Jimenez to Obi and Semenyo to Cunha? Would I sell Jimenez and Thiago for Ekitike? Who else are you buying in that forward line? Let me know. Best midfielder under 6 million. I don't think there are fantastic ones. I think Xhaka is just a steady pick that will tick over for your teams. Also, Lafi at Sunderland, I don't really have much in it between them because I don't watch Sunderland, unfortunately, each and every week. What should I do with Dewsbury Hall if I have a couple of transfers but a few issues? Well, if you need him to be sold, how much money do you have available to me? Let me know and I'll try and help you out on that one. Save the transfer or do Hincapié to Keane. The team looks good, just chasing upside. What do you think? Yeah, I'll be slightly concerned about Hincapié not playing. So I think Hincapié to Keane gives you guaranteed minutes and equally good clean sheet odds. Should I get rid of Semenyo? And if so, who am I bringing in? I don't think you need to sell Semenyo unless you are in a position where you know you want to buy the guy. So with Semenyo, it shouldn't be a case of I got to sell Semenyo. It's more of a case of I want to own this guy, therefore I need to sell Semenyo. I think you got to change the narrative a little bit on that one. I wouldn't be looking at Semenyo thinking this is a guy that has to be sold now. It's just more a case of maybe I need to sell Semenyo to own the player that I truly want in my team. That's more of the way I would view it. Just checking right now to see if there is any sort of updates or news on anything right now, and I don't think there is. I don't think I'm going to get any either, which is a bit disappointing, but we'll see. I'm selling Saka and Raul Jimenez for Rodgers and Ekitike. Yeah, I don't mind it. Can Saka hurt you 100%, but he's not offering FPL value right now, is he? Is Mateus Fernandes worth buying? I've never looked at him and thought it's worth buying him, really. I think there are a lot more priorities in the game than that. Right. Best Fernandes replacement, I still think is Cunha. I still think it's Cunha right now. I still think that's the route that I would go. I still think that's where I would go. So yes, I need to take a look at some stuff now. I'll have to take a look at my team a minute and try and sort out where to go. Because I've got to try and figure out what I want to do with my team. Cunha or Bowen for this week? I mean, I think I just prefer... Probably still prefer Cunha, I'm going to be honest. I still prefer Cunha. I don't think Newcastle are watertight defensively away from home. Yeah, so I think Hincapié can be covered by Klein. That's not a problem this week. I don't think that's a problem. My problem is, if you don't play Hincapié this week, there's rumours that Gabriel might be available for 19, so then Hincapié is done as a pick. Therefore, I think maybe just selling Hincapié is the right move, because if you're not playing him this week, then he becomes not an option from 19 onwards if the rumours are true of Gabriel being back. Kem GM saying, I've got Mark Gui, Potts and Richards on the bench and I have 0.2 million in the bank and one free transfer. Should I do Richards to Keane for some bench depth? Well, right now, who are your starting 11 where you're worried they might miss out? Let me know. Vasil, I don't know what the question is there, so you might have to let me know. Ekitike versus Haaland, I still think Haaland is the route that I would go for. Semenyo to Rodgers, not this week. Against Chelsea and then Arsenal, I don't really think that's the way to go. -4 to sell Thiago to Ekitike. If you can do a straight move, I probably would, yeah. I probably would, but I don't know what the rest of your team looks like to see if it negatively impacts your team. Bit of a dilemma. Should I sell Bruno and Richards for Keane and Cunha? Or -4 to take out Thiago for Ekitike, Grealish and Keane? I think I prefer the 2 free transfers. But look, the problem is Ekitike could honestly go mental this week, and then I look like a fool for even like telling you not to buy him. Like, how could I tell you not to buy him? Everyone's going there. It makes complete sense. His minutes are fantastic. It's just how it affects your team. I mean, the second one probably is the route to go for. But what I would say to you is this. If you go Ekitike, and we're talking about how he's so important, can you even get Cunha with your team the following week? You got to try and check out FPL team, plan FPL, put your moves in, like this, for example, and then pan it out. Because while that looks great this week, are you then blocking yourself from buying Cunha the following week? Because while Ekitike is the main guy this week, trust me, if Cunha doesn't get injured, everyone's going Cunha the following week if they don't own him already, because it's Wolves at home. Right. I do apologise, but I am going to now have to just quickly figure out what the bloody hell I'm doing with my own team. But we'll talk through the process, of course. So this is how my team is currently looking. Problems. Because I don't have Ekitike and I have a few issues. We've spoken about this before. In order for me to get Ekitike, I have to fund it by selling Thiago. And I just want to get myself in a position where I know what I'm doing if I don't buy Ekitike. If I don't buy Ekitike, I'm probably doing Semenyo to Wirtz. And I'm just getting it done. And I probably do Richards to Keane. And I just say to myself, I'm not going Ekitike and I'm done. And that's it. But if I buy Ekitike, I just need to figure out how I'm getting there. I don't feel confident selling Saka, but he makes the most sense selling. Now, Minter down to Lafi, as I've spoken about, enables this. And Lafi would then start instead of Richards. And my team would look like this for this week. And that's fine. Like, that's fine. It enables me Ekitike. But then when we get to game week 19... Okay, let's say Richards is available. I could play him at home against Fulham, happy days. Worst case, Anderson plays it away against Crystal Palace. Lafi at home against City, not ideal at all. And this is where it comes down to it, where, yes, me buying Ekitike is great, but do I would want to play one of Ekitike, Rodon, Mark Gui or Anderson this week? Absolutely not. So then all of a sudden my team just looks really poor. So let's say I say to myself, you know what, stuff it. Let's just play this and it's done. Or what I could do, for example, is use one of my transfers and let's say do this. I might feel a bit better about this. Let's say that there. But really, I don't think it looks better. So let's put him back. Let's say I roll the transfer in 19. Then in game week 20, once again, we've got Anderson at home against Liverpool, Richards away against Newcastle, Lafi away against Spurs. Real poor squad depth. So then, what do I do? Well, let's say I get rid of Anderson, or let's say I get rid of Richards, and I bring in Michael Keane, because he's got a good fixture. At home against Brentford. And I got one other move. The team in 20 still looks terrible. Like, it looks so damn bad. But I have Ekitike, which is fine, and all these sort of things. And Semenyo, by the way, in here, probably becomes Szoboszlai, just a heads up. So then, if I do that, it does free up 1.2 million for me to invest elsewhere in my squad. So I need to remember that in the back of my mind, that money's coming out of Semenyo in 19 in order to free up other moves. So, for example, the team looks like this for 18. Not great. Not great at all. But it can get by. In game week 19, I just have to say to myself, Semenyo is your cash cow. You're getting rid of Semenyo and going down to somebody like a Szoboszlai, which is absolutely fine, I think, long-term as a pick. You get him for Leeds, you get him for Burnley in 22. I think he comes straight back into this team, by the way. And I still got Ekitike at home against Leeds. So let's say I make that move. What am I missing in game week 19? Well, no Newcastle against Burnley, but again, I don't really know who the Newcastle guy to own is. I don't have Brighton against West Ham, but I don't feel like I need that, I'm going to be honest with you. And then I've got Man United against Wolves in the shape of Cunha. Unless Bruno miraculously returns, I don't really want another piece of Man United. So I think I'm covered off here for the rest of the squad. So that feels okay. So I've penciled in that move, Semenyo to Szoboszlai. Then in game week 20, let me just reset this particular game week. What would my team look like? I would have Raya against Bournemouth, O'Reilly, Virgil van Dijk, Anderson, Richards. Not an ideal combination there. Then I would have Szoboszlai, Foden, Cunha, Saka, Haaland, Ekitike, and a woeful bench. So when we come down to game week 20, once again, you've got to ask yourself the question, what are you missing? Well, I wouldn't have Rodgers against Forest. I wouldn't have any Brighton against Burnley, which of course I've sold Minter. Outside of that, it looks okay. It looks okay. But with only one free transfer available, each and every week I'm going to be scrambling to try and field a team. So what I would like to do here, for example, do any of these players offer value in the near future? Richards, not really. Anderson, a little bit. So let's say we get rid of Richards and we go to Michael Keane for his home game against Brentford. And the team then looks like this. It is always going to be a 4-4-2, which doesn't sit well with me, but I think we can play it. And then in game week 21, things can change, but just to give a bit of context, again, I don't love this week at all. Playing Anderson against Liverpool is not ideal. It really isn't. Maybe I'll play something like this. And then in game week 21, the team will look like this. Wolves at home, Keane at home against Wolves, absolutely fine. Few problems. And in game week 21 is the week in which we want to start investing in, I believe, we want a piece of Newcastle, I think. But again, very hard to get there. So I think we can make the team work by doing the Minter to Lafitte move. And I think it allows me to keep this structure. And I need to remind myself that Szoboszlai will be coming in and enabling stuff. And I know I've always got Bukayo Saka sat there to pull the trigger and basically bring him in. Like, bring him in any moment, basically. So, chat, what do you think? Do you like that move or not with Ekitike? Because the other option is going Wirtz. The other option is going Wirtz. But it just feels like this week where I'm in a position where I'm 71k. I agree on Newcastle. I feel like Newcastle I'm just going to avoid. I just don't think I can go there. Any Sunderland fans in the chat, please let me know. Is there any Sunderland fans in the chat? If there are, who the hell do we go for? But that's how we would get Ekitike in. I think that's the best way to get him in, is selling Minter to Lafitte, not getting rid of my Arsenal defence, because I think that's a scary prospect, just not having any Arsenal defence. And then in game week 19, using the funds to sell Semenyo to bring in Szoboszlai. The problem is my team is very threadbare each and every week, but the funds can then be used to improve one of my defenders to use, and then I know I've got a defender here basically as a backup. So that's the route really. I'm just going to write it down because I need to remember. Lafitte plus Ekitike. And I'll be selling Minter plus Thiago. That's the current lead. That's the current lead. Because, yeah, selling Saka is definitely an option, but I think I'm just too close to the deadline now to, like, process whether that is a good move or not, really. And then, like I said, the other alternative is getting Wirtz and just sorting out. In terms of the Ekitike move, the only other route I can do for Ekitike is taking the money out of Semenyo early doors. But it doesn't really resolve my team because whoever I bring in isn't really going to be that beneficial. And I don't think I need another Liverpool on top of Ekitike like a McAllister. So the team kind of then just becomes pretty shit. And then selling David Raya, I don't love coming off Arsenal defence altogether because the ownership is massive. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of that, in that position. Like I said, the only other alternative for me, and my issue right now, really, I'm going to be honest, is Ekitike is so highly owned, and I'm in a rank right now where it's like, I'm happy. I'm 74k. Is it worth the risk this week not owning Ekitike? I just feel like it's silly not to own him. I think it's just silly not to own him. Even though Thiago could tick over nicely, if Thiago blanks against Bournemouth and Ekitike has an unbelievable game, then I'm just thinking to myself, I've had a nightmare here. I think I've had an absolute nightmare. And again, Wirtz hasn't scored a league goal yet. Could it come against Wolves? 100%. But if Wirtz has a good game, I always think of it as Ekitike will have a good game because Wirtz is a creator. So if Wirtz is having his best game of his life, he's probably influencing Ekitike and making him bag loads of goals. So look, if I keep Thiago, the route I would go is selling Semenyo this week to Wirtz. And the team, can I just say, is like, this is stronger, this team, because it's got Minter there. I don't even have to make another transfer, I'm going to be honest. The team could just look like this, and Rodon comes in as an alternative sub. But for the sake of it, let's say I sell Richards this week, and I go to Keane. Let's say we make that move. And then in game week 19, we have got this, which would be, you know, Minter would come in for the West Ham game. Anderson would come out. And the team would look like that for game week 19. Which again, the squad's stronger. The squad's definitely stronger by far. But again, I'm carrying players that I don't know if I want. And then in game week 20, I probably have an additional transfer to go there. But I'm so reliant on Wirtz being the boy, basically. I'm so reliant on Wirtz outscoring Ekitike. It's crazy. And it just doesn't sit too well with me right now. I'm just a little bit scared not to have him. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And yeah, that's the thing. Maybe it's just a position where I'm just like, you know what? Just buy Ekitike and you can sleep well at night. And I can just sleep well at night. But yeah, my issue is I do think the move that I mentioned of going Lafay just makes my team a little bit weak going forward. That is all. That is just my big issue with going for like Lafay and all that. It's just like, oh God, I am stretched to the max then. Really stretched. And I probably should just take a bit more thought a minute about if we put him back in Semenyo. If we put Semenyo back in and we put Richards back in a minute. I spoke about doing Minter down to Lafay, but if we do Thiago to Ekitike, it gives me, with Minter out, 5 million to invest in. So, you know, I can't really get much in the midfield bracket if we just filter it here. There's not much. There's not really that much in the game. 5 million... midfielders. It's pretty bad. Dewsbury Hall would have been the one. Stack, I mean, fixtures are pretty poor. Lafay doesn't really get DEFCON, and his numbers are like, I don't really know what the love is for Lafay, and also he's, you know, on not many yellow cards. Scott at Bournemouth's not too bad. Lewis Miley is fine, and it gets me a bit of Newcastle, but I almost want to play him this week. Xhaka, I think, is just out of my reach. Let me just put it in. Oh, I got 5.2 million to spend, sorry. I've got 5.2 million to spend. So I could get Xhaka, who is probably a bit more of a steady pick, and one in which I actually wouldn't mind playing instead of Lafay, for example. So maybe Xhaka is actually the way to go this week. rather than Lafie. Can anyone in the chat tell me? Like, let me put a poll in. What world are we in right now where I'm competing between Xhaka and Lafie? And can anyone tell me, like, what even is Lafie, like, contributing? Let me just take a look at the Sunderland team a minute. Sunderland, last match, Brighton against Sunderland. The lineup had Lafie playing in the 10 and Xhaka playing in the DM, as we know. And in terms of the touch heat map, this is just for other people to know. Lafie basically played in a 4-4-2 alongside... Lafie basically plays in like a 2 alongside Robbie up top. So again, in the derby, we had Lafie playing actually higher than that of Robbie, which is quite interesting. Man City game we can't really compare. Against Liverpool, which of course finished 1-1, and Talby scored, Lafie played again really advanced alongside Robbie. And I'm just comparing it right now. Again, the furthest person in this pitch, Xhaka playing much more of a deeper role, as we know, but probably a player that I feel like could play Lafie on pens, which is fair. Lafie on pens, if that is correct. So maybe Lafie is the way to go, and we just free up the funds completely. Mateus Nunes, Fernandes, I cannot afford, for those that are curious. So, yes. Maybe this is the route to go to get Ekitike in. Like I said, otherwise, what I would have to do is basically make big sacrifices. So let's say we put Lafie in for the Leeds game. And I probably would bench Richards. And I would have him maybe first sub to come in this week. 18 looks good. Game week 19, my team looks... okay. Xhaka more nailed. Yes. But for those wondering in terms of Lafie's kind of game time, 19, 19, 90, 79, 85, 89, 63, 90. I mean, he's been an ever-present in this team, really. Yes, his numbers aren't fantastic, but look at this. Liverpool, City, and Newcastle. And that game was dead against Newcastle, wasn't it? So maybe an opportunity against Leeds and Brighton, Brentford, if I needed him, for his numbers to maybe get a little bit better. So yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. And I think I'm pretty set on these moves. I think the more I talk about it, the more I think Ekitike is just one of those players that if he does well, it could just kind of like, not ruin my season, but I think it could just really hurt my season. It really could hurt my season. And then the knowledge that I can just go down to Thiago if suddenly Thiago is the guy to own. So I think this is going to be the play, guys. It's going to be the summary in the top right. Minter to Lafie. Yes, I don't get Minter for the Burnley game, but it is what it is. In game week 19... we would then obviously look to pivot this team a little bit. Anderson would probably have to play. And then I would be questioning whether Szoboszlai is a player that needs to come in because the defence doesn't look fantastic this week. But it is what it is. It's a midweek game. Very hard to make transfers. Semenyo to Szoboszlai would be on the cards. And then in game week 20, this will be the week where I would be kind of asking myself, okay, what do I need? Because if Semenyo's gone to Szoboszlai, as we discussed, I would then have in game week 20, team looking like this, which I think is fine, but the defence is a bit of an issue. A little bit of an issue. Do I think I would need to bring Gabriel in for the Bournemouth game? Probably not. It probably sees Van Dijk stick around for a little bit longer, possibly. And I might be looking at selling, you know, maybe a Richards to a Keane and bringing in Keane for the Brentford game. I think game week 20 looks okay. I'm not really too fussed about not having double Arsenal in this particular fixture. Again, If I have to take a -4 for Rodgers, I just take a -4. It is what it is. Going down that route. Yeah, I agree on the Alderete thing, but I can't really get there myself. I don't really know who I would sell in the defence to free up the funds to get Alderete. And then, like I said, I don't have Brighton in game week 20, but it kind of just is what it is. It just, like, am I holding on Minter this long just to have the Burnley game? I just don't really know if that is worth it, really. I do agree Alderete is better than Lafay, but, like, really this week, I just don't really know if he enables anything in my team. I don't think he enables anything. So, the big question, guys. The final question before we wrap it up. Should I buy Ekitike or Wirtz? I know where this is going. I'm waiting for the poll now just to obliterate and say Ekitike. I feel a bit more confident about knowing that Semenyo is going to be a cash cow for me in the future, and there's not really many midfielders that I kind of want to own. Kimi saying Ekitike and Lewis Miley or Potts for Thiago and Mintet is my vote. The problem is I would need to probably play that midfielder this week, because if you look at my team, like, you know, if Lafay becomes Potts, I'm only saving 0.3 million. I'm only saving 0.3 million. And yeah, he's got Fulham at home, but is that better than that? I mean, everyone's going Ekitike right now, aren't they, in terms of the votes? Prediction on today's game, I think it is going to be a 1-1. Let me know, guys, what you think. I think 1-1. Sell Richards to get Alderete. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's a perfectly fine move. But yes, I don't really love the moves that I'm doing, and it's just more a case of, like, am I in a position where it's like, Christ almighty, I just need to get Ekitike in and just stop stressing about it, really. I just don't know if I want the stress of not owning Ekitike. That's the issue. I don't think I want the stress. Lafay is 4.9 million. And Potts is 4.4, and I don't think any of them generate... Is that right? Lafay's 4.9? He is 4.9. Okay, yeah, so there is a bit of a difference there. I do appreciate that. So yeah, I think that's where I got to go, guys, to get Ekitike. Would I start Thiago or Neto? I would start Thiago of those two, I think. I think United's getting beaten today. Yeah, that's probably fair. Who would you bench between Bruno, G, Gahey, or Wilson? I would bench probably Wilson, because I would be concerned about his minutes even if he did start. Okay, I think I'm going to have to wrap it up there, guys. Like I said, I personally think that my team is better if I don't go for Ekitike. I really do. I still think my team is better long term if I don't go for Ekitike. You heard it here first. I still think my team is better. But am I scared? Yes. You want to hear me say it? I'm scared. This is what I'm scared about. Because like I said, Semenyo to Wirtz, he could deliver this week. And then my team looks like this, and I sell Riches to Keane, and I get the Burnley game. And the team looks, I would say, as good. It looks good. Money in the bank for Gabriel is not a problem for me because I will be selling Virgil van Dijk for him. And Gabriel, I believe, is actually 6.2 million. Yes. So, yeah, it's a good point. Going down to afford Gabriel needs to be in the back of my mind, 100%. It needs to be a thought process there. But I think the route that we've spoken about has the route to get Gabriel. Because probably what I should do is duplicate this and have this as like this is my Wirtz route. And this is going to be my Cunha route. There. This is my like Cunha route. So that's the Wirtz avenue. This is the Ekitike avenue. And then I would sell Minter to Lafi. I'd have 0.3 million in the bank, supposedly. Let me just check if that's right. I do apologise, guys. Just because of Christmas, I'm usually a bit more planned than this. It's just been, like everybody, chaos with Christmas. So it's just trying to understand what to do, which is a bit of a pain. I just want to see if these predictions are right. Yeah, so I do have 0.3 available. It is correct. And then let me just check if I got the funds. Semenyo would go to someone cheap, like a Szoboszlai. And then if I wanted Gabriel, yeah, I've got 1 point whatever in there. Rookie question: if Wilson doesn't play, does it go to a sub-striker or defender, as I have no mids on the bench? So it will go to your first person on the bench. So if you are playing your team, if Wilson doesn't play, whoever you put first will automatically come in for you. So yeah, my team, this is the Ekitike route. This is the Wirtz route. Team looks better in 18, surely, for the Wirtz team than this one. Do we not think? Guys, this is the thing. Do we honestly think this team here with Ekitike scores more than the Wirtz team with Keane? I don't know. I don't know. But will I sleep easier at night knowing I've got Ekitike? Probably. Because then I do this. Game week 19, we go Szoboszlai, and Anderson probably comes in here. And then, yeah, I see that QB, but I can't see Gabriel doing that in terms of price. Foden was a one-off. Like the back-to-back double-digit returns was crazy. So yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap it up here, guys. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I will update you as soon as I do it. I'm a little bit sus on the Ekitike picks. I'm just a little bit sus. I think my team's better. I think my team is better when I go for the Wirtz route. It just looks more complete, you know. Team looks fine for this week. Yes, I don't have Ekitike, but it's not like Thiago can't score against Bournemouth. And then in game week 19, I can do Wirtz to Szoboszlai, but I probably wouldn't. I would just keep Wirtz in my team for 1 week. And Minter would come in for Anderson. So I could roll my transfer in 19 and put myself in a really good position. And then in game week 20, I'd have 2 transfers. Keane already sat there. Minter at home against Burnley, which is a good fixture. And yeah, this looks a bit more fun, but Ekitike could destroy everything and ruin my life. So we're going to have to wrap up there, guys. So I do need to get ready to head out to a bit of food for Boxing Day. So thank you so much for tuning in. I think, you know what, we hit our end of New Year goal of hitting 23k. We have, which is fantabulous. So thank you so much for that, guys, and thank you for tuning into this stream. Yeah, Gordon, I'm seeing Nacho so stressed for the first time. This is so true, Gordon. Usually I could be a bit composed, but today I'm all over the shop. I'm all over the shop. I think Ekitike will probably prosper because I'm just a little bit scared of him, but I just think this team could do well with Florian Wirtz, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. End of the day, if Minter gets injured, I'm like, why the hell have I held Minter and not got Ekitike? Like, really? Like, if we compare the 19 team, the team this week, it's literally Wirtz and Keane versus Ekitike and Richards. Sorry. Wirtz and Michael Keane versus Lafitte and Ekitike. Boy, oh boy, am I stressed. Right, I'm going to have to wrap up there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. But I am going to have to wrap up there. Have an amazing one. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Boxing Day wherever you are in the world. Pray for me that I don't, you know, just stress my mind out. And I will see you in the next video. Have an amazing day. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Take care. Loads of people are live right now. So if you need advice, go jump on their streams. And importantly, have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers, guys.